Hey, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'll be your host today. I'll be bringing on a guest in just a moment. Her name is Katie, and you're going to meet her. She's got a family of 7 kids. They homeschool. Her husband's an electrician, and they've been looking for a way to hopefully bring him home eventually from his electrician job and work on something online together and build it together. They've tried a few things in the past, but things really started clicking about a year ago when they discovered this podcast. We actually met each other. We were in a Dave Ramsey Facebook group and struck up a conversation. And I ushered her towards some of our free resources. She ended up jumping in. She's now a coaching student. They got the proven Amazon course and they became coaching students, and they're building a beautiful business together. And they have a vision of hopefully within the next year or so, bringing her husband, Adam, home from his electrician's job so they can truly tackle this business together as a family. They're buying inventory primarily online from common everyday websites that any of us can access. They're selling those products on Amazon, flipping them on the listings that show the most promise. And she talks through her process today of how she determines what she's going to buy, which ASINs, which listings she's going to sell against. It's a great story. Now, her business isn't where she wants it to be eventually. Obviously, none of our businesses are. But she's had a beautiful trajectory after starting with just $50 here, $50 there, wading in nice and slow. She talks about how the first few months, she was just checking things out, looking for proof of concept. But over time, she gained confidence. We even talked today about the difficult decision that her and her husband made, being fans of Dave Ramsey, right? Where they don't use any credit cards ever for anything under any circumstances. Well, is it okay to buy some of this inventory that we know has been selling so well for us? Can we use the credit card, leverage some of that to grow a little faster? They've started wading into that. And she talks through the decision that they went through, the process they went through to decide if they were going to do that or not. It's a very practical episode today, especially for those who are on the newer end, who are on the more cautious side of our community, who are really looking for proof of concept and credibility and stories from people who aren't multiple 7-figure sellers running a huge business out of their own warehouse, but just out of the corner of their home, starting to see some results, starting to have some dreams, and seeing proof of concept. They have about 150 products that they've found that they sell against at any given time. They're not selling all of them, obviously, but those are the winning ASINs or the winning products that they've discovered. We talk a lot about ungating, which is a challenge that a lot of new sellers have, and how they navigated that, how they got through it. We talk about the community, her coaching experience, which she just raves about. It's a great episode. I think you're going to learn a lot and be encouraged. You're going to get some great tips, especially if you're on the newer end of our community and you're looking to maybe step into this Amazon thing. What's the reality of it? If I want to wade in nice and slow, what does that look like? So it's a great story. I really enjoyed my time with Katie today, and I think it's going to resonate with you as you listen to her story. One last thing, you'll hear us talk about the Proven Conference that's coming up in the last 3 days of May of 2025. That's the 29th, 30th, and 31st of May 2025. We're going to go to Orlando, Florida. Hundreds of us were there last year. We're going to have a nice group again this year. Hundreds have already registered. Katie and her family are going to try to make it. They're not sure yet. They got a wedding that might conflict, so we're figuring that out. But we want you there if you can make it. Come on down. Get details at this website. It's 3 words. Ready? theprovenconference.com. Get to that website. We've got details there. It's going to be 3 days of education, instruction, 40 breakout sessions taught by people who are doing the businesses that they're teaching about. This isn't theory. This is real people in the trenches doing the business models on Amazon, on Walmart, multiple different strategies for different streams of income. A great community that you're going to love being a part of. Come join us. Get your tickets. Get it locked in. Let's go. All right, let's jump over and spend some time with Katie Powell. You're going to enjoy this interview. I can't wait to see where her business goes from here. She's built a beautiful business already. Enjoy. Katie, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. Good to see you, my friend.
I'm glad to be here.
And you've been in our community quite a while, but I got to admit, I don't know a lot of your story. I'm really looking forward to it. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go.
So we got into e-commerce. Well, my husband and I kind of do this business together, but initially it was just me. It was just kind of a thing I dabbled in, I guess, for a minute. And I found that December of 2023, so just over a year ago,
Okay.
right at the beginning of Christmas season. And I was in a Facebook group and I saw that you had mentioned, I think the post was about side gigs and earning some side money. And so I was just reading through. I'm always looking for extra opportunities to earn some money. And I think you had posted saying, hey, come over to this e-commerce site that I've got and come check out silentjimdotcom. And so it kind of just caught my interest. And I thought, well, I'll check it out. And of course, it just was such easy entry. The risk level was low. And my husband is an electrician. And over the years, he's looked for other opportunities to get out of that because it's hard on his body, and he's just had some struggles with that. And so we've always looked for different avenues of how can we eventually phase out of being in the electrical, physical work, physical labor, and we've tried some things over the years, but always been a little skittish of being entrepreneurs and starting fresh and starting our own business because it always seems like such a big investment. And so I was excited to see the proven Amazon course was easy, $40 a month or whatever it is. And,
Yeah.
and then
we tried to make the entry port as smooth and easy and low risk as possible. Let people earn while they learn, right? That's a theme around here. I'm curious, does your husband own his own electrician business?
He doesn't, no. So he works commercial electric.
Okay. So you guys have never owned a business before.
Right. I've dabbled with some side businesses, just little crafting businesses. I've run a craft show before and those kinds of, little side things that moms do to earn some extra income.
Yeah.
When their kids are little, things that I could do during nap time. But
we talked before we hit record. You guys are a fellow homeschooling family. Mm-hmm. Your crew is younger. Your oldest is the same age as my youngest. So there's a bit of a, we've been doing this a while. I think Andrea said the other day, like 23 years of homeschooling under our belt at this point, and we're about done. You're kind of just starting the journey. You've got one about to finish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've integrated this into your lifestyle. It's like, I'm looking forward to getting into that, but you've been doing this a year. How has it impacted family? What's the routine that you guys have gotten into?
Actually, it's been really cool. The beginning, it was a little bit, I took it really slow to begin with because it was just kind of, let's dabble and see if this is even a legit thing.
Right.
And so after a few months of just sending a couple things at a time, just, try it out. So really no one in the family was impacted at that point. I was buying 2 or 3 things, doing a little research when I sat in bed with the baby, nursing or whatever. No big deal. But once I decided, okay, this is actually selling and I can make money on these things, let's do this. Everyone in the family was like, let's do it. We're all in. And so they've really picked up the pace with helping out with other things while I do research and shopping and all of the things.
Right.
And
now I know you've got an 18-month-old, you said, right? And I'm assuming they're not contributing a whole lot yet. But what's the youngest contributor to your business now?
My next youngest is 4. Well, she turned 5 today, actually. And she loves to help me sticker things. And so she puts the stickers on things. My 7-year-old stickers the products and they help bag and prep. And up to the teenagers, we're now paying the teenagers to help with the preps. So that's nice. We just started that last month or so.
Man, that's so cool. I love it. Because the thing I know, Katie, having gone through exactly what you've just described, and I remember our little ones, their only contribution at times was drawing a smiley face on each box because we said, hey, about 50 people are going to see this box in the next couple of weeks. Why not make their day a little better? So they just sit in the corner with a Sharpie and draw every one on the box. You can't do any damage, right?
I love that.
We planted that thought in their mind. We're serving others. This is what this is about, is others, not us. These toys aren't mine. This food isn't ours. This is to help others, right? The lessons they learned, I had no idea how deep they were going. What we ended up doing was raising 5 very entrepreneurial thinkers.
That's cool.
You guys 7, and the bonds they created. I'm just so excited for the reality of what you're going to see as your family tackles business and e-commerce together. Are you starting to see some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, my 17-year-old asked me just a couple days ago, he said, Mom, what can I do to help build this? And part of that, we have some ulterior motives because we've got some goals we want to move and buy some land. And this is our avenue, hopefully, to do that. And so he said, Mom, what can I do to help this grow faster? And I said, let me teach you how to source. And so we sat down a couple days ago together and I said, I'm going to start sourcing. Let me show you what I'm doing. And let me explain the Keepa graphs. And so kind of taught him about Keepa, and he's excited to learn. And he wants to kind of help. I haven't delved into eBay or Walmart or any of that. And so I think that that'll kind of be his gateway in, is he'll help me kind of branch out and do some of
Start
those
to
other things.
diversify a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
love it.
he's
Yeah.
excited to learn too.
About a year in. And what's been your best month so far, approximately, total sales?
Definitely December.
This
So
past month.
December, yeah, this past month. We started coaching in August, and every month since then we've almost doubled our sales. Most of the months we doubled at least. And I'm trying to remember what we sold, how much we sold in November, but I think December was about double. So,
Outstanding.
yeah.
Approximately what was that? Like,
I hit just over 11,000 at the end of December.
outstanding. So you've been scaling in pretty slow, but it's starting to pick up now for you.
Right.
You guys are starting to see the numbers of what this could become.
Yeah.
What was your initial starting capital, if you happen to recall back when you first started wading into this? Did you have a number in mind, like, I'm not going to spend any more than this, I'm going to test this thing out?
Yeah. So initially I thought, well, I have, a few $100 maybe. I'll spend the about $100 a month for Keepa and the pack course. I did do the
Amazon seller
Kickstart.
account. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Those three
my
together,
Amazon
about
account.
$100 a month. That's kind of the minimum to play the game, right?
Yeah. And then I bought the Kickstart. And the Kickstart, I bought into it the beginning of December. I had a 4-month-old baby and 6 other kids that I was trying to prepare for Christmas and homeschool and do all the things. So it was the worst time ever to do Kickstarter.
Yeah, sure.
But it was really great. Robin Joy did it, and she was fantastic. And so I listened in, and mostly I just thought, well, I'll listen in and then I'll tackle all of this in January. And so I joined the Zoom calls and kind of just learn, but I wasn't actively really. I got on Keepa once in a while, just to kind of stay fresh with what she was teaching, but wasn't really pushing it in December of that year. And so January, I sent in the first thing. And initially I thought, well, I'll spend like maybe $50, send some things in. And then the next month I thought, okay, well, I'll spend $50 again, send some things in. And I think after a couple months, I started deciding, okay, maybe $50 every couple weeks or $50 a week. I think right before I started coaching, I had originally decided, well, I probably have $200 a month I can put into this. And so I decided to start with $50 a week and kind of go from there.
So how long before you started this journey? How long before you started having those aha moments of, okay, the money's coming back, this could work, you're tracking your numbers? How long did that take?
Well, when it was probably about March or April when I started seeing some traction, really, when I went, okay, this is
3 or 4 months in.
because you can sell 1 or 2 things and really I wasn't trying to make a profit at that point. I was just trying to learn the systems. And so I was just buying things that I could at least break even. And so I don't know if I even made money on those.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll try and just make sure I can understand this process, and then I'll try and make some money. And so I think March or April, I kind of decided, okay, I'm actually going to make money on these things. And we actually went on a trip in June. And so planning for the trip, I kind of set things aside for a minute while I was getting everything ready for the trip. And then while we were on our trip we were gone for a week, I came back and just had to catch back up on life and kind of set everything aside for a minute. And so the beginning of July, I thought, well, I think I could make some sales on this, but I'm just not feeling very motivated and I need to try and figure this out. And so I called the coaching office and I said, all right, let's talk.
There we go.
Here's my one call. Tell me what you can do. And they said, well, let's get you going. And so we started coaching in August. What's that?
You started coaching in August, you said, and here we are, January 2025 at this point. So, not that long ago. Who's your coach?
Chris Beam was the proactive, and then Grant Douglas is my reactive.
Nice. Yeah.
And both have been fantastic.
Pairing.
Yeah.
And we've got such great coaches on our team.
Yeah.
That's cool. So shout out to them. So what's the reality of what's changed? You said your business has doubled each month since you started taking coaching seriously. What kind of things have you done more of? What impact has it had?
I think really a big part of it was a mindset thing. I think it was commitment. So before it was just kind of dabbling, and then I decided, let's just really do this and we're going to be all in. And we also decided we're going to kind of leverage some credit cards to get us going and started. And that was one of the hurdles we had, was finances.
Yeah.
And so we're, like I said,
decision.
I came from Dave Ramsey, and so we're very cautious with that.
That's how we found each other. I think you said before we hit record today, the Dave Ramsey group, that's where I was in there posting, and And, I've worked with his organization a little bit. He endorsed one of my books, so I'm in their groups and such. So it's always an interesting line to hear Dave Ramsey people decide to use a credit card for their business. Like, you've got to be really certain of what it is you're getting into.
Right.
So how did those conversations go? Was that a lot of, prayer and conversation before you said, okay, let's start putting some of this on the card so we can grow faster?
Yeah,
If you don't mind
definitely. I
sharing,
mean,
I don't want to get too personal, but I'm just
oh,
curious what went
absolutely. I'm
on.
happy to share. We were feeling really confident, and I've seen the proof already. And so, like I said, I'm not a big risk taker typically. I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, and so I
Mhm.
kind of like dip my toe in things, and I want to
Mhm.
try it, and then I go, wait a minute, that's too risky, and I back off.
Yes.
But this one didn't. I mean, it didn't really feel that risky, and so of course we prayed about it and talked about it and thought over it for a little bit, and then we said, you know what, let's just do this. It's of all the things we've considered doing, this one doesn't feel risky. It feels good, and so
Yeah, you've had enough transactions.
yeah.
Robin Joy, one of the coaching team leaders on our team, coined a phrase that I want to use here that I think applies for the listeners. I know you've figured this out at this point, Katie, but I've been doing e-commerce for 22 years, right? We've got a team of about 60 coaches at this point. What we're always on the lookout for is the lowest risk, lowest learning curve, wade in as slow as you want business opportunities
Mhm.
that have the highest odds of success and the highest chance of turning into a very robust, beautiful business. And we haven't found anything that comes close to this model. And you're describing it beautifully. You were able to take several months, get proof of concept, $50 here, $50 there, wade in at your own pace, pray about it, think about it, talk about it with your husband, and decide, okay, we're going to leverage a little bit of credit here because we're making really good decisions very consistently on our inventory. We just need a little more capital.
Right.
And so you wait it in. And I love that, we've got plenty of people that come at this and say, okay, I've got 50 grand. What do you advise me to do, Jim? Like, keep 49,000 in the bank and
Slow down.
wade in like Katie did, get proof of concept, take your time. And then once you're ready to step on the gas and you've got a good trajectory, let's go.
Hmm.
But not everyone has the capital. So do I leverage credit or not? That's a big decision. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
How much did you get? Like, talk me through some numbers. Like, what was that first credit card expense?
What was the first thing we put on the credit card?
Like, how
What, like,
much? How deep did you go?
well, the first credit card we were approved for 11,000, and I think the first month, I think I spent a couple $1,000s, and really part of that was I've been limited more by my time than by my money now because of
Mm,
that, because we've got the credit card options available. And so it's now I'm just trying to source enough products, and not that I am having a hard time. I know you've talked about before that once you learn how to find products, that's not the problem, and it really isn't. Like, I
it's
remember
not.
as a new seller being like, oh no, there's nothing I can buy, everything's gated. That really isn't the problem anymore. It's just finding the time to go, actually search through the Keepa charts and find some
Yeah.
things. And
I can imagine a homeschool mom of 7.
yeah.
Time is your most critical resource at this point. Not being able to find good ASINs, not necessarily even money, because you can access and borrow on some credit and scale there. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And some of the
Yeah.
most amazing success story testimonials in our community, Katie, have been, there's single moms with almost as many kids as you have. I have no idea how they do this. Homeschooling single moms. How in the world building businesses online? But the nice thing about this, I know you can kind of speak to this. I wouldn't mind hearing your vantage point on how you fit this business into the cracks of life,
Hmm.
right? 15 minutes here, an hour there, kids are in bed, 45 minutes here, Saturday morning, get up a little early. Like, how does that piece together? What's the reality? Is there a routine here, or is it more like our family where it was pretty much, you never know what you're going to get each day with 7 kids, right? I got to imagine
Right.
that sick kid. That's the lesson today, guys. We're taking care of your 10-year-old brother today as a family. Right? That's the lesson. So, how's that fit into your schedule as a homeschool mom?
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of just piecing it here and there. I try to schedule some time in my week. I do have consistently, like, my Tuesday afternoons are kind of that's my
Mhm.
time for Zoom calls with my coaches. That's my time for trainings, that sort of thing. Monday nights, I always sit down and source. I mean, always, unless something comes up, of course.
Sure.
And I try and work it around our schedule, but it's all over the place. And I normally like to be an early morning, get up before the kids kind of person. except when I have a baby and I'm up all night with the baby. And then if I wake up early, she wakes up too. And then my free time is not free time. So
Yeah.
I've learned that I stay up, I do better if I stay up late. And so I get her to bed and then I stay up sometimes sourcing, maybe once or twice a week, I'll stay up extra late sourcing or, doing some accounting work or something like that, just kind of catching up on things.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise it's kind of just in the afternoons we finish school and the kids all run off to friends or off to their activities or whatever. And that's kind of my time to sit down at the computer for an hour or two and
Right.
do some sourcing.
So once it's all said and done, about how many hours a week would you say you're putting into your business?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Approximately. Sounds like about 10 hours to me, 10, 12.
Yeah, probably. If you put it all together, probably 10 to 15.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some weeks that I get 3 hours in and there's some weeks that I really push myself and get 20. And
absolutely. And we just got through the holidays, which I'm sure was just insane.
Yeah.
So you get less time. December's an interesting month for Amazon sellers, e-commerce sellers of any kind, because it's one of the greatest opportunity months where it's easier to sell a lot of whatever's selling, but you also want to enjoy the time with your family and your schedule is fuller than it usually is. You got kids plays and Christmas services and things to do. And you don't want to say no to those things. It's always an interesting month.
I did find myself kind of trying to find that balance of we're going to push really hard, but we're also going to try not to overdo it and burn ourselves out. And so we pushed hard for the first half of the month. And towards the end of the month, I said, okay, let's just slow down and enjoy Christmas for a week or two. And so I think our inventory right now is probably lower than I would have liked it to be. And our sales may be a little bit slower this month just because or next month, maybe because of that.
You do a couple weeks off. Yeah. Which is understandable.
Yeah. But we, and like I said, our ultimate goal is for my husband to quit working and come home. And I'm hoping that's by next Christmas. And so next Christmas, I'll have him home to help kind of juggle those things. And maybe we can manage that a little better. But I figured this was a learning year and we're just kind of figuring out how to juggle everything.
But it sounds to me like you've got proof of concept. You know how to find good inventory. You've got a good system in place. And I think what you're probably starting to develop, Katie, I haven't asked you this question yet, is a bit of what's it look like to offload this from you being the primary, person carrying the weight to a true team system. Maybe a virtual assistant picks up some of this stuff for $3, $4 an hour, right? And different kids get better at sourcing than you ever were. And so now you're managing this system and this machine. And now you talked about diversifying, which is an important part of this over time. About a year or two in, I like to see that conversation start to turn towards, all right, let's talk about Walmart over here. And some of this inventory we couldn't sell on Amazon that we thought we could sell. What are we going to do with it? All right, let's talk Walmart. There's a nice window of opportunity there. So you can start to diversify, start to build in some backup plans, right? If things get a little weird with one stream of income, you got another one. And so you guys are heading in that direction. It sounds to me like you're starting to think along the lines of automating this thing. So what are the roles that you've said you got your family involved at this point and they're kind of dipping their toe into it? What are the different roles of the different players on your team? Do you have a VA yet?
I don't have a VA yet.
Okay.
So that's one that I've been kind of considering, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to turn that over yet or not. Mostly because I actually like sourcing. And so I'm not sure I want to give that up.
We can talk about that. I'm gonna give you some challenging questions to ponder on that subject. But let's talk through your team. Who does what? So
right now I do all of the searching, buying, research, all of that. And then when the products show up at our house, we do almost all OA. I do have some things that I go and pick up at the stores, but we're about a half hour from anything bigger than a local mom and pop grocery store. And so we don't really get to Walmart very often or other stores. So
what state are you in?
We're in Idaho, southern Idaho. So just a little more rural and don't have a lot of stores close. So I do, when I'm in town, I grab some things that I know do better with RA, but otherwise everything else I just have shipped to me.
Yeah, just sourcing it online, shipping it to you, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So who cracks open the boxes and from there, and like who, talk me through your team.
Yeah, so my kids do. Mostly my 15-year-old and my 12-year-old boys. My 17-year-old has his own job that he works in, so he's gone a lot. But like I said, he's kind of been asking to get a little more involved. But my 12 and 15-year-old are the ones that do most of my packing and prep. And so they open the boxes up and say, okay, Mom, what's this? If this is a new thing, they don't know what to do. How do we prep it? Otherwise, if it's stuff they've prepped before, they just go to it and they just get it all packed and ready. And then my husband and I do the boxing just because he's better at helping kind of just sort it all out. I use Inventory Lab. And so I'll get on Inventory Lab and put it all in, create my orders. And then I'll print off the packing list and say, here, sort these into the piles of which box goes where. And he packs them all in, and he's good at doing the packing. And he was doing all of the prep for a while, but we've just, like I said, just recently handed that over to the teenage kids.
Outsource that to the cheap labor. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, they're dying to make some money, and we're dying to have time to free up. So it works out good for us.
So do you guys run the boxes to a UPS store? Do they come to your house? What do you?
We take them. Our local grocery store has a UPS drop-off spot, and so we just take them over there. And
so you've gotten to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
How many boxes today, Katie?
Yeah. I always feel bad because they've got just a little corner that they pile them in. And I always say, I'm sorry, I've got 10 big boxes. Corner. I'm going to take up your whole corner. And they're happy to do it. They don't mind at all. They're super nice about it. And it works out great.
Yeah, it's small town people. That's the kind of town I grew up in, right?
Yeah.
Middle of nowhere, kind of on 50 acres. And it was a big deal, 45-minute car trip to get to the local. It was an IGA is what we call it here. Mm-hmm. It's a little grocery store, right? Fantastic. I'm visualizing such a bright trajectory for your kids. It's the benefit of having an entrepreneurial spirit in the same home, mom and dad doing this business together with the kids. I'm just excited for your family, where this is going to take you guys.
Yeah.
So what else have we left out of your story? What kind of products are you selling primarily?
Probably mostly household goods, a lot of home decor, household essentials, measuring cups, those kinds of things, just kind of kitchen essentials.
Yep.
But we've dabbled in some other things. I've done a little bit of grocery. I've done a little bit of cosmetics. I don't think I've done any clothing. So yeah, mostly, I mean, it's the things I'm familiar with is what I'm shopping for, really. Yeah. Tools. We've done some tools.
Sure.
So
good categories to be in.
Yeah.
And I imagine you stuck with the household because that's one of the easier ungating categories.
Right.
For selling, right? So how big of a frustration was the ungating thing for you? We kind of pushed past that early on, but we have a lot of new sellers in our community, and that's a constant theme we hear is, oh, I'm gated for everything. Like how did you get through that? What was your experience?
For the first couple months, yeah, it was frustrating because it does feel like you just, every turn you go, there's nothing, or, the things you're ungated in are just not even possible to make a profit in. But that really wasn't even true. There were so many things. Once I and I think it was a mindset thing. Once I kind of started seeing, even the store brands, Walmart brands, Sam's Club, Costco, whatever, Target, there's still plenty of those things I can sell, and I can sell well and make some money on them. And I wasn't gated in them. And so it was easy. And I don't think it took long before things started opening up. It was just, a couple months, maybe probably by the time I decided this is a real business, let's do this, the doors really just started to feel like they're falling open. So
yeah, very good. I love to hear that because that's our general advice. I've actually got a post in our Facebook group. You may already know about this, Katie, but for the listener's sake, for new sellers who are struggling with ungating, it's a free post in our free Facebook group at silentjim.com/ungating. And it talks you through some of the categories where you're more likely to see very friendly, wide open, ungated ASINs. You can sell against, break even against, get a few transactions. And my question for you, Katie, is about how many transactions would you estimate you completed? How many items did you sell before it felt like Amazon was starting to trust you? And you're starting to see this auto ungating, which I'm sure you see a lot more now, where Amazon says, hey, do you want to be ungated for this product? Click here to apply. Click. Congratulations, based on your selling history, you're ungated. No 10 units, no invoice, none of that, right? Just auto ungating. How many transactions before you started seeing that would you estimate?
Honestly, this is a wild guess because I don't have a good estimate on that, but I would say maybe 100, 150, maybe less. I don't know.
Yeah,
it certainly didn't feel like it took that long. It was, just a couple of months really, or a few months probably.
Couple months, and once Amazon starts to trust you a little bit, realize you're sending in what you say you're sending in, and they'll start to open up some other brands for you. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, well, what else are we leaving out of your story? Anything that comes to mind that you'd want to share with the listeners, or any questions for me as well? I'd love to hear maybe even what your plans are. You said you want to bring your husband home by the end of this year. We're into 2025 now. Like, what are the numbers there that you're hoping to get? What's the plan there? Just go any way you'd like. I'm just enjoying hearing more about you.
Sure. So, well, our like I said before, a little bit of background story. I'll make it quick, but part of the reason why this even piqued my interest was, like I said, my husband's been trying to kind of get out of being an electrician for years, and we've dabbled with some things. He went back to school for a little while to be an engineer, and then decided that wasn't it. I went to work full time, working from home so that he could be home, and that's what got us really loving it. Like when he was home, we were all home, and it just changed our family. And so I did that for a while. I worked for a homeschool curriculum company and wrote curriculum, and until I got pregnant, and pregnancy kind of threw us for a loop. And so he went back to work, and we've done that a couple of times, and actually decided to move a couple of years ago out to the Midwest and buy some land. We bought 50 acres and a house, and that was actually supposed to help bring our expenses down so that we could afford to take some risks and start some businesses. And we did that, and just some curveballs in life kind of hit us again. And we went, okay, this isn't working, never mind. And just kind of got knocked backwards a little bit. And so we moved back here to Idaho, and we've been here for about a year and a half. And we really miss having 50 acres and the freedom that we had there. And so, so we've kind of had, we felt a little bit demoralized when we moved back, and it was kind of just like hang your head and go back kind of thing. But at the same time, that gave us a new fire to let's really figure this out and do it the right way this time, and make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's and have everything in place before we move again. And so that's our plan, is to get back to doing, kind of a homestead lifestyle and having some land and letting our kids have a little more freedom and get outside of town a little bit. So
what a beautiful goal to have.
That's our hope.
Regardless of when or how it happens, the fact that you guys are tackling this as a family and that the kids are vested and contributing, that's going to reap such huge dividends for you guys. I'm so excited for that. But I will be praying that the doors start to open and fall into place, and this trajectory that you have in mind, this vision that was God's given you for this land. And then I'll be believing with you guys in prayer that comes about. I love hearing that.
Thank you.
What a beautiful goal to have for your family. Well, I want to talk about something you brought up earlier. You said, I just love to, and then fill in the blank, right? Typically when people start to find their momentum in their business, I'll hear it. I had one friend of mine, I'm not going to call him out, but he never did. He had a 20+ year e-commerce career, and he just loved prepping and packing and the shipping process. He just loved it. Never let go of it. And as a result, his business never really grew to where I always thought it could and should. Good friend. And I always challenged him on it. So I came up a long time ago, like, dude, you got to put down the box tape. Like that became almost a motto of mine. I've got a few mottos. Bringing dads home. I love to see dads under the roof as much as possible. That's not always possible, but when it is, it's a beautiful thing. Having the parents under the same roof as the kids. I love seeing those things. But one of the other themes I always say is, put down the box tape, or whatever that part of the process is that just kind of resonates with you, that you enjoy, that you find comes very naturally to you. That last piece that you want to hold on to, that's the one that you're going to want to. And you're already doing this with your son. You're starting to train him on how to source. You said that's the one you're going to have to very intentionally kind of train up someone to be as good as you and then better than you, and let go of, to truly allow this thing to scale. Now, I'm not saying it needs to happen now or that you're too late. Just as this process unwinds for you, as we go through this process, that's the piece that you are going to have to let go of. Now, you can still contribute there. You can still monitor that part, but to truly build a robust, multiple income stream, secure income, time to bring dad home, quit the job, you're going to want to have a finely tuned system in place where, if someone goes down, there's a backup, and people are trained. If you're sick for 3 weeks, it doesn't crash. I mean, that's not a hard scenario to imagine, right? So you've got to have those things built in. That's a truly robust system. And in the way that I've kind of trained myself over 20+ years of doing this is, I'm asking myself constantly, am I the only one that can be doing what I'm doing right now? If not, I need to be training up my backup. And even on this podcast now, we've had guest people pop in. I want to have a business at every level where if I suddenly had to go away for 2 months, I don't come back to a disaster.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. None of us know if we're going to get tomorrow. That's scriptural. So what do I want to leave? So the fact that you enjoy different pieces of it isn't a real strong argument for not having a robust backup for the system that you're building, right? And I'm not saying
Right.
you're doing anything wrong. You're doing amazing. But those are the kind of thoughts I just want to plant in your mind or anyone else that's going down this road. And it is a pretty beautiful thing to kind of step back from your business and just check the numbers, check on the leaders in each of their roles, build over time, your business becomes managing the relationships with the great people that you've put in place. Could be your virtual assistant in the Philippines that you're paying $3 an hour to source while you sleep using your strategies. Could be your son. This is a great way to stay connected. He's in his teen years making big life decisions, but you got to talk at least a couple hours a week because he's running a part of your business. So you're connected through business, right?
Yeah.
So there's beautiful benefits there to this. But does any of that ring true? Or you have any questions about any of that? I'd see of this next year, those are some of the thoughts you're going to start to have.
Definitely. Yeah. And as you were saying that, you said you can easily imagine being out sick for 3 weeks. And I thought, that's really what's derailed us a couple of times is pregnancies or things like that I just can't keep up anymore. And so we go back to what we were doing before. So I think you're right that definitely it's something I need to start considering having some backup.
Yeah. Well, the visual that our coaching director, Nate, he's been with me over 20 years at this point, Nathan Bailey, helping manage our coaching teams. And he says, once you've built a castle, you don't sit back and enjoy the castle. You build a moat around the castle. And then once you got a moat, you go start another castle and you maintain the moat and the castle, put good people in charge. So that's the multiple income streams philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you never get to just kind of sit back and say, okay, I'm doing my job. I've got my routine. I do this and I do that and I do this. And I'm putting tape on boxes on Thursdays and I'm researching on Fridays. And that's great at the beginning, but you need to build a system that doesn't require your presence. And then there's a robust protection around those different pieces, such as that's what multiple income streams does for you. That's what the Walmart account, have a little eBay action maybe. And you're not running around with chaos. It's building systems. That's what gets you there.
Yeah.
And then every step of the way, it always surprises me, or I guess it's probably stopped surprising me now as much as it used to, that the people who do really well are the ones who intentionally seek out relationships in the community. And they realize this is a relationship and leadership journey that they're on. It's not just about their business nose to the grindstone. It's about this community and the opportunities it represents. I mean, you just dropped a little bit of nugget of information. You created some homeschool curriculum, right? You kind of said it in passing. That was one of the things you did. There could be someone hear this podcast and go, hold up. If she has an extra 5 hours a month, I could really use Katie is my person. Like, I need it. Here's another $1,000 a month income stream doing some work for someone that needs exactly the skill set you have, right? Because you're putting your name out there, you're putting your face out there, you're talking about your family. This is going to resonate. You're going to hear from people who hear this episode. They're going to tap you on the shoulder. Some of the opportunities you won't be interested in, some of them maybe you will, right? So that's a lot of the value of this community, is just those connections and the people. And I know you're going to be trying to come to some of our events here in the coming year. Great move. You will not regret hanging out with this community. So having said all that, anything come to mind? Any questions for me? I kind of got into a little bit of education mode there. I apologize, but I just can't help.
I love it.
I'm so excited to see you guys get where you're trying to go.
I love it. It's exciting for me. I don't know that I have any questions, but I like the motivation. And like I said, I've seen enough proof of concept that both my husband and I and maybe we've got some rose-colored glasses on even, but we're excited. And like, we can see opportunities just coming at us. It feels like there's more coming at me than I'm ready for, but also it's just exciting. It's like, I can feel doors just opening up left and right. And it's kind of relieving, because there's been some times where we've both felt just like we're stuck. We don't feel stuck anymore. We feel really very hopeful for our future and for our kids.
So great. I love that. I just love that for you guys. There's nothing like the hope that comes from a proof of concept business opportunity. They're starting to come together. It just opens up a lot of doors for your family, a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedoms, a lot of dreams become possible. Yeah.
For sure.
We love helping make that happen and seeing families do that together. All right. Well, you've talked a little bit about, I want to get back to some little practical. We didn't spend a lot of time. You said you have no problem finding good ASINs at this point. Your limiter is your time. Get it. But as you said that, I'm kind of getting in the minds of some of the listeners, especially the newer members of our community, maybe those who've been around less time than others, saying, whoa, wait, what are you doing exactly? Like, you're shopping online, you're using Keepa, and I know we can't dive deep into the weeds of exactly, every process. You're not going to tell us exactly what you're selling, right? But what are you looking for? How are you finding? How are you pricing it? Talk me through that decision process a little bit now that you found some winners. And also on that, before you answer that, how many ASINs would you say you have in your catalog right now that you're selling actively?
I think I probably have 150 or so.
Yep.
There's some that I have recently weeded out because of one reason or another. I actually took several out of my that I'm planning to replenish in the last week or so, just because they were either really not making me enough to be worth my time and money, and there's some that were multiple sets that were kind of, I'm not so sure how those fit with the new Amazon policy, and so I'm going to just kind of wait on those. So most of the time when I sit down to source, I pull up Keepa and I'm searching either. I kind of branch off of what I'm already selling. So either I'm storefront stocking, which is something that I learned in the Proven Amazon course, I think in one of the Keepa. It seems like maybe that's something that Brian and Robin Joy teach.
The advanced Keepa training module inside the Proven Amazon course. They talk about kind of what are other sellers selling. And actually, as a little side tip, I heard this in our group recently. I'm always learning new things. A new seller in our community said the way that they were finding great ASINs to get ungated for was to go in and look at other sellers who had very low review counts.
Mm-hmm.
They've only done a few transactions, but they're able to sell stuff. Like, what are they selling? Maybe I'll sell a few of those, break even or not. Amazon doesn't care if you're making a profit or losing a little money or breaking even. They don't care. They just want transactions. So on your way to, like you said, you needed 150 transactions before you 100 to 150 before you started seeing Amazon just kind of throwing open the gates on brands. How are you going to get there? Well, look at what other sellers who are new are selling and sell some of that, right? Source it, sell it. It'll get you there. I love that. So, okay, but keep going. Sorry, I kind of interrupted you.
No, yeah, that's great. So, and that's what I do. I actually look for sellers that have probably less than 10 reviews. That's really where I go, because I know that they're probably about in the same phase where I'm at. I have 2 reviews right now. So if I'm in that 2 to 10, maybe 15 or 20, those are probably my people. They might be just a little ahead of the game for me, and they can sell the same kind of things I can sell. And if it's something I'm already selling and they're selling the same brand, same type of product, then they probably have some other options that I should be considering too. And so that's where I go with it. If I find a screwdriver that sells, then I say, okay, who else sells a screwdriver and what else are they buying at the hardware store?
What else are they buying and selling? That's right.
Yeah.
And I can hear the listeners. Let me just talk to the people, the skeptics right now are going, whoa, that means you're selling the same stuff as everyone else. Exactly. That's what being a reseller is. But you find those ASINs, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but there's winning ASINs right now that already have 200 other sellers on it. And you can still win, profitably sell on that ASIN. We've got specific examples of exactly that happening in our team. It's actually a coaching student. I've told the story many times. I'm not going to tell it again here, but he sold as the highest price seller on an ASIN with 200 other sellers and sold a whole bunch of it in a very short period of time because it was underserved from the perspective of not enough units sitting in Amazon's hundreds of warehouses around the country, right? And he recognized that. So he sent in a bunch and sold a bunch. And I wouldn't have advised him to do it, but he took the risk and did it. And it was a killing. I would have advised him to go in with maybe 10, 20 units max. He went in with 2,400 units. What are you doing? But it worked out beautifully. He sold all of them in a few weeks as the highest priced seller. Again, so just because you're selling the same thing other people are selling doesn't mean suddenly you're in a price war, because busy shoppers buy from warehouses near them all the time. And they don't care what the other sellers are doing. They just want it fast and they're willing to pay more for it. But anyway, that's getting off into the weeds a little bit. What strategies are you using? So you're looking at these ASINs. What helps you decide, okay, there's a screwdriver. I'm eligible to sell it. I'm approved for that ASIN. Am I going to sell it or not? Take me through your process a little bit.
So usually the first thing I look for is, my cost to purchase it and the cost of the typical price it's selling. Actually, from the very beginning, have kind of stuck with the above the buy box thing on a lot of my things. Before I even noticed that you were really teaching that, I just always thought, start high and might as well start high and work your way down. I don't know why I would start at the bottom. And so I've always listed things high, and many of them sell at a higher price. And so I keep them there.
Mm-hmm.
So typically I'll make sure that I can at least break even at the lowest buy box price in probably the last 6 months to a year. Like I usually look at the last 3 months and think that's a pretty good indicator. 6 months is a little stronger. Over a year, if there's a couple times that it tanks, then I try and just be cautious of that. But, the average over the year, if I can break even at that, then I'll sell it.
That's great. Can I restate what you just said? Because I think more sellers need to understand what you just said.
Sure.
You start your price high on pretty much everything. Why wouldn't you? You leave it there for a few weeks. Why wouldn't you? And you only do that on ASINs where the lowest buy box price in the recent 3, 6, or you said even possibly a year to be super cautious, the lowest that you've seen it on the Keeper graph, you make sure that that is approximately a break even for you. That's how you mitigate all the risk. That's why you guys were comfortable saying, you know what, let's put a couple $1,000s on the credit card here. Because our worst case scenario is we're going to get it back in, a few weeks, couple months max. It's all coming back. Worst case. Best case is we price some of this stuff higher than the other sellers, and it's an underserved ASIN where customers want speed instead of the lowest price. They want fast delivery. So they buy your unit because it's sitting in a warehouse near the customer. So you're making sales at great margins, right, on these ASINs. So that's how you mitigate your risk while maximizing your margin. And you said you've been doing this from day one, this above buy box, which I love the way you phrased it. Even if you don't understand why or how it works, start your prices high. Mm-hmm. That's the summary of the buy box strategy. Start your prices high. 4 words. I can sum up the whole buy box. I've never done this before, Katie, but I'm going to sum it up right now. Start your prices high. 4 words. Now you understand the above buy box strategy. You may not even know why or how it's working. Who are these crazy people paying $20 more than they have to for my screwdriver?
Yeah.
Or the people who want it fast. And you don't have to understand the metrics, but you made it available at a high price and they snagged it. Even though they had slower delivery, lower price options, they didn't want that. They wanted your unit and they snagged it and they got there up to 2 hours. Now you guys probably don't have 2 or 4 hour delivery where you're at.
No, nope.
If you order Amazon Prime,
it takes 3 to 5 days to get here.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are kind of, I don't want to say out in the middle of nowhere, but I can because I live there too. Out in the middle of nowhere, Indiana is where I'm from, right? So I get it. Okay, well, keep it going. If we're talking through your process, you're mainly doing above buy box. How often does that tend to work out for you?
I would say probably 50% of the time I'm selling significantly above the buy box. The other ones I'm kind of battling with the buy box, and that's okay. I think one thing to backtrack for a second, one of the things that makes it easy to be okay and comfortable with the above the buy box strategy is what you've always taught, the inch deep, mile wide. Mm-hmm. Because if I buy 2,400 units of something, I want those to sell fast, and I don't want to wait around and see if they sell high and slow and whatever. So you have to have some margin to be patient, right? With the above buy box. I think on some things, some of them still sell fast.
Yeah.
But maybe not as fast.
As a general rule, I haven't bought 2,400 units of anything ever in my Amazon business. Or eBay or Walmart for that matter. Never. Yeah. My team, we buy 5 to 10. Ordering 10 of anything is a big, big deal for us. Mm-hmm. Because as a reseller, tomorrow you could wake up and Amazon bought 500,000 units for half the price you paid, and they're dominating that ASIN suddenly. I don't want to be so deep in that ASIN that I'm scrambling to try to figure out what to do. I'd rather be, like you just said, Katie, inch deep, mile wide, spread my risk across the board. If an ASIN goes bad, I got 3 or 4 units. I drop my price, get my money back. I'm out of it. Mm-hmm. And once you have a system where you can manage 1,500 ASINs just as easily as you can manage your 150, it's not a complex system to scale. It's just not. It's just another product, just another ASIN. Some of them die, some of them come back to life, right? You can build a total system around it. That's the way to do it. Yeah, inch deep, mile wide, and you're doing it. That's great. Yeah. Do you happen to know what your net margins are? The good month you guys just had, do you know what your total net margins after all costs?
Yeah, last month, I think after everything accounted for, well, Inventory Lab is showing me that I made about 10% on that. So, but I think that's also taking into consideration some of my coaching costs. So,
right.
I don't know. That's one thing where I'm still a little bit, that one, the accounting part of it is where I'm now trying to tackle that and understand it better.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm trying to spend this month wrapping my head around, how to actually keep track of all the accounting and making sure. I mean, I know I'm making money. I know I'm not losing money.
Right. You
but
can
that's
see in the
about
bank
as,
account. Yeah.
yeah. So, I'm paying the credit card off and the money's coming in, and I can see that I'm, when I look at each ASIN, each one of them is profitable by this much or that much or
Mhm.
whatever. And so
Mhm.
I know I'm making money,
And
but
the
I think,
value of inventory too is
yeah,
worth at least what you paid if you're going to break even selling it. So you've got that to add to the bank account balance based on what you've put in, right? You can do some quick, dirty math and like, all right, we built a business that's worth about X at this point, total assets, the
yeah,
inventory at Amazon plus the money in the bank, considering what we've put into it, right? You can do some quick math and see what you've built. But
mhm,
yeah, it is important to get that dialed in, and any local accountant or any, if they've done e-commerce before, that's probably a bonus. We've got some good people that we can connect you with through Humminbird. I'll stick a link to that in the show notes for those who don't know what that is, if you need help with that. But yeah, there's tools and there's resources to make it. But yeah, making sure you're profitable and knowing your numbers. So when it comes time for taxes, it's not a big stressful thing either. You don't want that
yeah,
stress.
yeah,
You want it to be smooth there. So yeah, that is a big deal. But yeah, it sounds
yeah,
like the wheels are turning and you've got a trajectory at this point.
yeah. We're working it for sure.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, what else is on your mind? Anything else that you want to go into that you think would help paint
Um,
a picture? Or I think we've told a pretty good story today. Where you're at,
yeah,
where you're headed.
yeah. I think a lot of the hurdles that we have had to overcome have been mindset things, and there's a lot to learn, but it's not hard. There's a lot to it, but it's not difficult. So it's not easy, but it's something that
Yeah,
anyone can do.
it's simple, but it's not easy, which is a hard thing to maybe understand when you first say
Yeah,
it. None of this is rocket science, but it is work.
yeah. It's a lot to take in and a lot to learn. And
Yeah,
there's been times that I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose, taking in all the different things I'm learning.
yeah,
And I tend to be. I know you've said before that we try to teach the just in time knowledge instead of just in case. And
mhm,
I tend to be a just in case kind of person, and so I have to keep
mhm.
reminding myself to just take what I know and work with it, and I don't need to keep learning more and keep taking it all in. And so that's been something that's been a hurdle, I guess, for me more than anything, is just to actually put things into practice and not just try to learn it all first.
Be in learning mode constantly.
Yeah,
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 yeah. The question that always kind of tips me off that we've got a student who's more of that personality type where they want to kind of understand and learn it all before they start is when they say, how long is it going to take me to go through the proven Amazon course? Like how many months or how many weeks? Like how long? Like, no,
15
that's not how this
years.
works. No one on our team, no one in our community has ever been through the entire library of content. It's the
Mhm.
equivalent of saying, how long would it take me to watch Netflix? Movie? No, I mean
Right.
like the whole thing. It's like by the time you got halfway through, there's going to be new stuff. There's going to be stuff that's vanished, new stuff added in. It's what do you need right now is
Yeah.
how we take our library. Like, what's the next step in your journey? What next doors of opportunity are now open to you based on where you've come from and where you're at now? So it's just in time education, versus again, like you said, just in case, kind of
Mhm.
preparing for all possible future scenarios. No, you don't do e-commerce that way. It's impossible. It's just
Right.
impossible because things are changing, and you always do need to be learning, but you need to be taking a lot more action and implementing what it is that you know, and that opens up the doors of opportunity that you alluded to. And when you
Yeah.
have questions, you got a great team behind you. You got your coaches, you got the community. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
guys are on an exciting trajectory. If there's anything I can do to be of help, please do reach out. It's been
Thank
really
you.
great getting to know you today, Katie.
For sure. You too. This has
Absolutely.
been
What's your
fun.
husband's name so I can be praying for you guys?
Adam.
Adam. Adam
Yeah.
and Katie. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And they're 7 beautiful kiddos. Man, I'd sure love to see you guys be able to make it to Orlando for
No,
our
if we
conference.
can make it work, we really want to. But
It'd be so
if
great.
the wedding's in the morning, we might just fly out in the afternoon. We'll see. Miss the
Yeah, if
morning.
it works out, that's phenomenal. Please reach out to me if there's anything I can do to help make that happen because it's such a great event for families. And the resort we've got right next to SeaWorld, they got a couple swimming pools right there on the grounds, like outdoor tic-tac-toe and checkerboards and stuff. Plenty of stuff for the kids to do. It's a nice, safe, kind of fenced-in resort. It's just phenomenal. Love to
That
have you
sounds fun.
there. For those who don't know what Katie and I are talking about, go check out theprovenconference.com the last 3 days of May. 2025. We're going to Orlando. We had about 850 or so people, listeners to this show, come last year, families, and lots of kiddos, lots of homeschool families in our community. We love to see that as well. But anyone and everyone's welcome if you want to build their business using the internet creatively. That's what we do. All right. Well, It's been a great time hanging out with you, Katie. Say hey to Adam. Thank him and your family for loaning you to us for an hour or so today. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you. That's all.
Very good. Very good. Well, let me talk to the listeners for a second who hung out with Katie and I today. If you enjoyed this interview, if you found some benefit in this, some encouragement, let me tell you, we've got hundreds of episodes where I've sat down with students from our community. Some of them are coaching students like Katie. Some of them are just proven Amazon course students. Some of them just enjoy our podcast and they've built something beautiful just listening to the free content. It took them a lot longer to get there, but they pulled it off. We don't care how you get there, but we love talking to people who are on a good trajectory. Sometimes they have multiple seven-figure businesses. Sometimes they're having their first five-figure month and we're celebrating with them and everything in between. We love to meet the students of this community, interview them, learn from them, discuss ideas and strategies for the best path forward. You'll find hundreds of those episodes on our podcast. Just scroll back in time if this is one of the first episodes you've heard. We're very proud of the fact that we were recently voted the #1 podcast for Amazon sellers in the world by an independent third party that surveyed thousands of sellers around the planet. That's pretty cool. So we're pretty proud of ourselves these days on what's been built here, but it's completely free. It's here to serve you, to help you grow your business. Let us know how we can help you out. Lots of good resources at silentjimdotcom. Get over there if you've never been there before and dive into our community, free Facebook group, our low-cost courses, coaching if you're interested. We'd love to talk to you. God bless the business building warriors. And one last time, Katie, thank you again, my friend. It was great to meet you.
You too. Thanks,
All right.
Jim.
We'll have another great episode for all the listeners like you very soon. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, before I let you go, really cool segment. Stick around for this. What would you do? How excited would you be if you had a system for finding dozens or hundreds or even 1,000 or more ASINs for a database that you would have, only you would have, just your ASINs, just your listings on Amazon, that you've been able to filter through using about 60 different strategies that we're going to step you through. You could have a massive catalog that you can reference anytime. Then you can use a software tool such as The System, silentjim.com/The System, or maybe Replin's dashboard, or maybe you just want to use a spreadsheet, but you can monitor these ASINs and find the winners and sell them when they're viable. Finding great, viable, test-worthy ASINs to add to an ever-growing database is a key part of this business. And Jimmy Smith, the guy who helped craft our Replens training course for this community inside the Proven Amazon course, he's got a system that we've been through one time. We had one class go through it, raving reviews, and now we're ready for round 2. So here's the deal. It's called the Evergreen Sourcing System. If you go to silentjim.com/evergreen, you can get details. Now, maybe you're too late, depending on when you're listening to this episode. We'll have round 3 at some point. Don't worry, we'll have details on that page. But if you're listening to this in January of 2025, you still have time. You can attend a webinar completely free on January 31st. There's a link at silentjim.com/evergreen. Get details on that free webinar. If you like what you hear and you're excited to get in, or maybe you just read the sales page and you're like, yes, this is for me. On that same page, silentjim.com/evergreen, you can get signed up and the classes start February 11th. These are live classes. I'm going to bring Jimmy on here in just a moment to describe a little bit more about it. He's going to describe some of the different systems that he teaches and why we did this, why we've put it together, and how great it's going. So again, if you want to learn from one of the best in the biz how to stuff your database full of great ASINs that you can return to and monitor and really build a beautiful business around, this is a class for you. silentjim.com/evergreen. Let's get Jimmy Smith on the line with us right now for a few minutes to talk through what this class is about, who it's for, and then maybe it's something you'll want to jump over and do with us as well. Let's get Jimmy on the line. So Jimmy, thanks for jumping on here with me for a few minutes. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, Jim, I'm excited to be here. And yeah, good to see you too.
Well, we've got this evergreen sourcing system coming up again. You've already done one round of it. And let's just talk through how to go. What can people expect? I'm excited to be going into this again with you.
Yeah. So the first round went great. It was kind of a beta testing group just to see how that would go, using some of the structure and the systems and stuff that I've put together and getting it out to people that can implement it into their businesses. And we've seen tons of great success stories, testimonials, people adding hundreds and thousands of leads over the couple months that they went through it. And so that's been really cool to see just those results come from it. Ultimately, my goal has been for a long time to be able to give systems for how to source and to give a method for storing those systems and storing those leads, my bad, and coming back to that over and over again. And that's really what we did for a 2-month process. I'm excited to go through it again with a whole new group of people.
Yeah. As you and I both know, there are just so many viable test-worthy ASINs on Amazon. And there's, at this point, literally dozens of strategies that we've identified for finding those ASINs, those, I like to call it underserved shelf space at Amazon, right? But to go through and use some of these higher end strategies and see them demonstrated with someone who's been there, done that, and has a very profitable, viable business, that's just a different experience. So maybe I'd like to hear you talk me through a couple of examples of, these different strategies, because some people, when they think of sourcing for Amazon, they think, well, I'm going to go scan some barcodes and look for stuff that's selling for $10 at Walmart that I can sell for 40 on Amazon. That's what we're talking about, right? No, we're talking about more intense strategies than that, a little more depth to them. So talk me through a couple of examples of the things you're doing to build your list of ASINs.
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, this actually also applies to arbitrage and wholesale. So I do this in my wholesale business too. We'll use similar methods for finding wholesale suppliers or for finding wholesale ASINs. So this is really just kind of a new way of thinking about sourcing. But essentially, we'll go through how do you store all of the data that you're kind of coming across, whether you're a new seller or an advanced seller, and how do you store that so that it benefits you in the future? I know a lot of people go through sourcing and you might hope to find one profitable replen that you can test each hour or each day, depending on where you're at in your business. And so we want to figure out a way to capitalize on getting as much data that is ours, that nobody else has access to because it's in our own system, and being able to come back to that over and over again throughout the career of us selling on Amazon. And some people have been able to use this for Walmart as well too, just kind of the same philosophy. But from a standpoint of strategies, we go through basic, intermediate, and advanced sourcing systems. So some of the basic methods, if someone's been around this community for a little while, they've probably seen things such as manual sourcing or store private label sourcing. But once we get into the intermediate things, we're looking at how do you use the Keepa data product finder, how to use the Keepa category tree, how do you use other software tools like Nepedo and other things that can help us to find leads on a more consistent basis. And we provide, it's 58 systems is what we went through in the last training. It was 58 different sourcing systems and hopefully more in the next one. How do you actually do it step by step with screenshots of things to click and what to put in there? And we also go through plenty of different actual live sourcing scenarios over a 2-month period so that people can learn with us and see how it's actually applied. It's not just, hey, here's a catalog of systems that you use, but it is, how do you actually use it? How do we think about it? And it's myself, Kate Chaddock, and anybody else that I can bring on from a sourcing expertise standpoint. But we've been able to successfully do that last time. So I'm happy to get into some of the exact specific, types of systems and sourcing that we're doing, but that's kind of the broad brush of we're using Keepa, we're using manual methods, and we're using software to help us really find a lot of leads that we can add into our own system.
Sometimes people are skeptical, Jimmy, when they first come into our community and they hear us and other experienced sellers saying things like, yeah, the challenge isn't finding profitable ASINs to test. It's just not. The challenge is building good systems, right? So yeah, the fact that we've got almost 60 different strategies and these are live sessions now. You're going through and showing these demonstrations, and people get the recordings as well, if they can't make it. But how many sessions are we talking about here?
Well, so this last class, we went through 24 different sessions. Some of that is foundational teaching of like the philosophy behind sourcing, which is trying to store all of that data. But most of that is going to be live sourcing, going through the systems or just doing live sourcing by itself. And so we go through a lot of different methods for that.
Very good. Okay. Well, I think people have a decent overview, a glimpse of what's involved here. I wouldn't mind hearing of those 60 strategies, though. Give me one that that you're kind of proud of, or that's kind of interesting or off that people wouldn't necessarily stumble upon themselves. Does any one of them pop into your mind as being like, yeah, this is one that people are like, whoa, okay, I've never thought of it that way. If you got an example.
Absolutely. Well, I pulled up all of the different systems too, so I could always list them if anybody wanted. But for the ones that kind of stand out for me, a lot of it comes down to how do you utilize some of the other software tools to bring back hundreds of leads in a sourcing session. And so we go through Nepeto specifically with Keepa, and we go through how to really master that. That's one big one for me. If you aren't using Nepeto, then some of the other ones that I like would be looking for items with increasing prices that you can capitalize on now. Because if you can find things with increasing prices, that usually means decreased competition. And so having an intentional strategy behind that is what separates people that are able to use this versus people that just kind of stumble into those opportunities. And so we have a methodical way of going through to find those products. And so that's one of the things that I love about it. We also go through, keep a category tree and the bestseller list and so many other things that allow us to hone in on those best ASINs that are out there right now. But yeah, I'm happy to list off any of these too that we've got. I pulled it up just in case you wanted me to.
60 is quite a list, but people can see, I think haven't we got most of the list on the webpage? It's silentjim.com/evergreen, where you get a little bit more of a taste. silentjim.com/evergreen. And again, why evergreen? Like, I know what you meant by that, but I'd love to hear you put it in your own words. You've already alluded to it a little bit, but you'd think it would be named like Keepa research strategies, but that's not the point. It's more of having a sustainable list that you can go back to over and over again, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the point is that this is an evergreen list that you have. And as you are using these systems and you're finding different products that would fall into what we would consider a lead for this training, then you grow that list over time. For instance, right now in my Amazon account, I've got 25,000 different leads, approximately. I think it's like 25 something, right? But approximately 25,000 leads. If just 1% of those becomes anything that I can source and test, that's 250 ASINs over the year that I can test. And it really adds up to a lot of profit. But what's great about it is it continues to grow, right? So you continue, as you move forward in your Amazon business, you continue to add leads to this. So next year, it may be 30, 35,000 leads that I have. And it just keeps growing. And so that's why I call it an evergreen system, because it's kind of growing with your business. And it's actually looking at it from the standpoint of making this an Amazon business more so than making it an Amazon hobby. And so I just like to look at it from that perspective, because we're all trying to grow and scale our business. One of the hardest things to grow and scale is your sourcing, unless you start outsourcing to other people. And to do that, you need systems. To do that, you need leads, and you need your own data that you can come back to. We all know that there's competition analysis and storefront stalking out there. But this one thing, if you have this database of leads, nobody else has access to it. Those are your leads that you can come back to over and over again. And so that's why I love it. That's why we've had so many great testimonials from the first round with just the small group that we had. And I'm excited to get it out to more people.
Fantastic. Yeah. And sometimes newer sellers especially will think, well, an ASIN is good for a while and then it's dead. That's pretty rare. What we've seen more often than not, unless it's a discontinued product, which does happen, right? Mm-hmm. Or the brand shuts down completely for some reason, or it goes out of business, or whatever. But most ASINs, if they die or tank, whatever word you want to use, they come back again. And so if you've got a large list that you're monitoring, that is a valuable, viable asset that is truly an evergreen asset, right? Mm-hmm. So that your list becomes kind of the heart, the power of your replens business. And yeah, phenomenal concept. And just getting to spend time with you in these classes is going to be invaluable. The tips and then the community of others who are taking their business seriously. There's a little bit of a mastermind that I've got to imagine kind of formed even out of the first time that we did this. This is just the second time we've done this, but the rave reviews have got us saying, okay, we need to do this again. This was a home run. People are enjoying this. Anything you want to say about any of that or any final comments? I think we've given people enough of a taste here to know if they want to go check it out or not.
Yeah, that's a great, I think that's a great overview of everything. The only last thing that I want to mention, I know there are a lot of people in this community, right, that are using 3P Mercury or the system through Kang. You can absolutely utilize that with this training. I do get that question a lot. And there are other software tools that I will cover too, that you can use with it as well. So it's not specific to one software tool that you may hear mentioned, but it is something that does apply to, any software tool that's able to store those leads and that data for you. So
we've even got people using the old spreadsheet system. Like, if you just want a big list of viable ASINs, no matter how you're monitoring and then checking for viability, you're going to have a big list of ASINs after this class. That's the main point, right? That you can go back to over and over again. Replan dashboard, the system with Kang, spreadsheet people have, they want a manual review with a team of VAs and they just got it on a spreadsheet. Okay, cool. But you're going to have a big list of ASINs to keep track of. And that's the point. So you're starting off February 11th, 2025. Right. So if people are hearing this afterwards, we'll probably have a round 3 at some point. Still go check out the website, get the details. But you're going to have a webinar on that date, right, to kind of kick things off?
Yeah. So February 11th will be the date that we're starting. So that'll be the first class is February 11th.
Okay, first class.
But we're also having a webinar before then to just kind of expand on that a little bit more.
And there's details and dates on that webinar at silentjimdotcom/evergreen. So you can get in there, get the webinar live, or maybe get the recording of that so you can kind of see what to expect. And then February 11th is when we kick off.
Right.
Outstanding. Well, is there anything else you want to add to this segment, Jimmy?
No, nothing right now, just regarding this program. In general, the Amazon business has been around for a long time. Arbitrage is here and it's here to stay. And so how can we start to kind of evolve with that, evolve our businesses to, create our own database, our own things that we can come back to, create leverage that other sellers do not have. And we can all go through this and find different leverage points, different data points. And so that's why I love it. I'm really passionate about it. I think it's probably one of the most detailed trainings I've ever done. I mean, we've done the Replens course since 2019. We see all the success stories that have come from that. And I'm excited about this probably more than I ever was about Replens course because, of the things that people can directly apply in doing this, I'm just pumped for it. So that's kind of my perspective on it. It's been probably a couple years in the making. I think we started talking about this over a year ago. And so I'm just excited to bring more people into it and see their results too.
Yeah. Well, let's keep serving with excellence. And I love how much creative time and energy you've put into this. It's well worth the low price tag if someone's taking their business seriously. Get over to silentjimdotcom/evergreen. Get into the next round of classes. Again, classes start February 11th, 2025. But if you're listening to this before then, there's a webinar. Either catch it live or we'll post the recording on that page as well. We got to remember to do that in case someone misses it. But we'll probably have a round 3 as well, assuming round 2 goes as great as the first one did. But thanks for doing this, Jimmy. I appreciate your leadership in our community, man. Love working with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Talk to you soon, buddy.